Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank IFPRI and our office in Washington for organizing this event around the SOFI 2017 that underlines our long-standing partnership with IFPRI on many issues. And I would also like to thank my colleagues. I have with me the Director of Statistics at IFPRI, the Deputy Director of ESA, that have a big role. They've had a big role in putting together the State of Food Insecurity of 2017, but also Rob Voss, who's now with you, who was one of the two technical coordinators of the report. So, as our representative said a few minutes ago, this report marks a new era in monitoring progress. So I don't want to repeat his words, but it's putting together the monitoring of targets 2.1 and 2.2 of the SDG 2. We kept the acronym SOFI, but of course we gave a positive spin by calling it the State of Food Insecurity, the State of Food Security and Nutrition. In this, from now on, we will monitor progress made towards ending hunger and all forms of malnutrition. Now, we also, as our representative said, we will expanded the partnership in order to do that. So, SOFI, that from 2010 involves FAO, WFP, and IFAD. We also brought on board UNICEF and WHO. Now, in SOFI, we report that the positive element is that we observe a downward trend both in the number of undernourished people and a steeper decline in the prevalence of undernourishment for a long period of time. However, the number of people has the decline has somehow flattened in the last few years, and then we observed for the first time an increase in the number from 777 million to 815 million. And the prevalence is back up to 11% from 10.6 that was in 2015. So we have a mix of news. The decline is good news. The uptick is not good news. It's bad news for all of us. Now, we should have expected this, not only because of the flatter curve in the last few years in the number of undernourished people, the decline, but also because earlier this year, famine was declared in parts of South Sudan, and alerts on risk of famine were also issued in northern Nigeria, Somalia, and Yemen. Nearly 20 million people have been heavily affected by in these four countries. So the Director General in the conference of FAO, he mentioned that this was worrisome signs. Now, in terms of chronic child undernutrition, the numbers have not reflected this upward tick up in the undernourishment. The stunting rates have declined between 2005 and 2016 from 29 to 22%, more or less. But we still have, the decline has slowed down, and in many parts of the world we have serious problems. So we have today 155 million children stunted, while wasting threatens the lives of about 52 million children. Child overweight and adult obesity are on the rise, including in low and middle income countries, and many countries have multiple forms of malnutrition at the same time. So those are, as I said, not good news. So we try to identify some of the reasons, underlying reasons for the prevalence of undernourishment increasing, and what possibly has driven the latest number. We identified conflict as one of the leading drivers of this increase in several parts of the world. And we have also seen that hunger is even worse when conflict is combined with extreme weather events, some of which are related to climate change. Today, conflicts and the impacts of extreme weather events or climate change pose increasing challenges to our global efforts to eradicate hunger and extreme poverty. As part 2 of the report, which is a very significant part of it, and in my view, one of the most solid second parts of SOFI on conflict, the second part then makes clear that conflicts are on the rise. The nature of conflicts has changed, but they are expanded and violent and become more violent, especially internal or intrastate conflicts. That's where so you can understand that we don't need to go to great lengths in explaining how conflict affects food security through availability and all the other dimensions of food security. Besides, we have identified 19 countries in a protracted crisis situation, and 18 of these countries are engaged in internal conflict and violence. So there's a situation that lasts more than 10 and a half years. And all of them have suffered severe droughts or other extreme weather events. So the people that live in those countries are about 2.5 times more likely to be undernourished than people live in other developing countries. So conflict and food security are closely linked. 489 million people out of 815 million live in countries in which there is conflict one way or the other. And 80% of stunted children also live in countries afflicted by conflict. So, and the number of refugees and internally displaced persons doubled between 2007 and 2016 to about 65 million people, mainly as a result of conflict. Now, 2 years ago, in our reading, we have pledged to eradicate hunger by 2030 as one of the Sustainable Development Goals. It's time that, in our view, that some of these pledges are turned into concrete action, because the latest number changes are not inspiring much of a confidence. Now, peace is a key element to ending hunger in conflict situation. But achieving peace takes time. There is a lot of things for us to do in situations of conflict and, of course, of post-conflict reconstruction. In our reading, we need to build more resilient rural households, improve access to food security and vital agricultural resources. And such action could actually help to prevent new conflicts. And now, in this report, another innovation that I want to report is that we don't only, in the spirit of the SDGs, we don't only report figures for the developing countries, but we have figures also for all countries, including the developed countries. So our key message is that unless we change the way we work, unless we, in conflict situations, we better combine humanitarian and development programs and assistance, we will have a hard time meeting the SDG on hunger. Thank you very much for your attention.